Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the ninth episode of the Circular Chat presented by ICCE. This weekly program brings together experts and practitioners from various sectors to delve into the integration of circular practices and sustainability in business models. As we embark on the fifth season, our focus centers on circularity in electrical and electronic equipment sector. In collaboration with NSR Cell, the Startup Incubation Center at IIM Bangalore. Throughout this season, we have explored pivotal topics such as life cycle of electrical and electronic equipment, e-waste collection, closed and open loop business models, material composition, sustainable business models, and India's vision for circularity in WEEE sector across 8 episodes. Today, the topic of our discussion will be from dismantling to recycling. When we talk about electronic waste, the process of material recovery is very different from simple recycling. It is time, energy, and money-intensive process. Let's explore the nuances of dismantling with our expert speaker, Mr. Jai Kumar Gaurav, Senior Advisor, Climate Change and Circular Economy, GIZ India. Mr. Jai is a climate change and environment sector professional with around 14 years of diverse experience. Prior to GIZ, he has worked with Adelphi GmbH, International Development Enterprises India, United Nations Development Programme, and Sindicatum Carbon Capital on climate change mitigation and adaptation projects. He holds a master's degree in climate change and development from Institute of Development Studies, University of Sussex, UK, for which he was awarded the Commonwealth Scholarship. Welcome, Jai. We appreciate your valuable time today. Thanks a lot for being present.
Thank you, Surabhi. Thank you for inviting.
Yeah. So, Jai, we have a set of questions ready for you. So my first question is very basic about, as we say, from dismantling to recycling. So what are the primary distinctions between dismantling and efficient recycling in the context of electronic waste management, and how do you see the dismantling and recycling landscapes evolving?
Thank you for your question, Surabhi. So in India, currently, we have a lot of dismantlers, and as the name suggests, it's basically dismantling is basically breaking down the components of the electronic equipment into the key parts, which it doesn't involve taking out the complex materials. Like, for example, printed circuit boards are there in almost all our electronic equipments. And these printed circuit boards contain a mixture of different metals and materials. Now, that separation, for example, separation of gold, silver, copper, these separation activities happen at the recycling stage. Whereas at the dismantling stage, you just open the device by removing like nuts and bolts, taking the plastic separately, the printed circuit board, keeping it separately, keeping the screen separately. And in some cases, it is also involving basically crushing the material so that it is easy to transport. And because of the investment required in a recycling facility, which is a lot more than a dismantling facility, we have a lot more dismantlers in India than recyclers. Also, the technology for recycling, there are different types of technologies for recycling. Some are less efficient, some are more efficient. So, and that has implications on the investment. So if you if you are investing less, you will have a less efficient recycling setup. And if you're investing more, then you have more efficient recycling setup. So as a country, we are generating, let's say, approximately 2 million tons of electronic waste. And then out of that, the major portion could be plastics, glass, and metals, aluminum, iron, those materials. But then the complex materials, which are there in the printed circuit boards, the precious metals, the other important, they are called critical minerals and metals. For their separation, what happens is there are certain facilities in India, there are some recycling facilities they take those printed circuit boards and recycle and recover the materials separately, or a lot of it is exported because
Okay.
the facilities for efficient recycling are based in other countries. So a lot of material, for instance, goes to Belgium, to Umicore, which has a smelter where you put printed circuit boards and you can get very high, like 97, 98% efficiency in terms of recovery. So if there is 100 grams of silver in, let's say, 1 ton of 1 ton of printed circuit boards,
Mm.
exactly you will get like 97, 98 grams of silver recovered, compared to other less efficient processes where the recovery could be 60 or 70 or 80, depending on the type of technology available and used. So as a country, with the increasing generation of electronic waste, we should be moving towards more advanced and efficient recycling industry setups. And that's why there could be a possibility that either Indian corporates or foreign companies, they will be investing more in setting up recycling facilities in India. And also, I would like to share that there is a indigenously developed recycling technology, which
Okay.
is available, and it's available through the Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology through one of their research institutions. And
Mm.
dismantlers can also purchase the license to set up this technology, to procure this technology and set up facilities for recycling. So
Okay.
there are other options available. It's not that only very large facilities like Umicore
Mm.
can do recycling.
Mm.
There are these smaller setups also available, which are licensed. They have been developed by indigenous research institute, like Indian research institutions, and
Mm.
some recycling companies have taken the license and are setting up these facilities, or there a few are already operational. So we,
Okay.
going forward, we will see more recycling facilities coming up, and end-to-end recycling happening within India, rather than
Mm.
export of printed circuit boards to get the metals
Mm.
recovered, to get the materials back. And that is also important for circular economy in India, because we need the new, like we need the recycled materials to manufacture goods. And we have Make in India, we are going to have more and more manufacturing in India. So we would need these raw materials. And if we have recycling facilities that can give us the raw materials within India,
Mm.
then we avoid the transportation cost, the extra transaction cost of exporting and then importing. So it will be like the waste is getting generated within India and it is getting fully recycled within India. And the
Okay.
materials recovered are used to make new electronic devices, new items uh, in India only. Yeah, so from dismantling to recycling is the way to go. And I think already a lot is happening in the sector. If you look at the current landscape, more and
Mm.
more recycling is going to happen. That's the way
That
forward.
Okay, so that's a great thing to know that we are moving towards recycling, efficient recycling of the electronics waste in India. So, Jay, as of now, what challenges do you see that Indian market has from moving from dismantling to recycling? What are the basic? Because you told us that we have got some indigenous technologies and there are licenses that are available that recyclers can opt for. So what are the challenges right now to move to recycling, efficient recycling in a much faster way? Because we are not as of now we are not recycling much e-waste. So what will it take and what are the challenges right now you feel for India to move up to that level?
So I will I'll take you through the different steps in the value chain, and then how there are some challenges for promoting recycling in India. So
Hmm.
starting from the consumer, like as
Hmm.
consumers, as businesses, we are not aware, or even when we are aware, many of us are not channelizing our waste for safe and environmentally safe and efficient recycling.
Mm.
So if we give our waste, our electronic waste to informal sector, and there is a high chance in that case that it will end up in informal recycling. So first step is at the consumer level, at the business level, that we should channelize our electronic waste for formal recycling. And then the second challenge could be even during the step of dismantling or once the electronic waste ended up in informal sector, that it will get recycled in an informal manner, either because of leakage or because from the beginning itself it has been in the informal chain only. So to avoid that, first thing is that consumers should channelize the waste to formal recycling systems. And second is that once the waste is channelized in the formal recycling system, it should be ensured, and that is happening from the regulation side, that the material is recycled or handled formally only in the formal setup only, and there's no leakage for the towards the informal sector. And for that, for example, the material balance is very important. Suppose if we know that 100 tons of laptop waste has gone into the formal recycling setup, then how many tons of plastic, how many tons of metals, how many tons of glass should be recovered, and that should be quantified. So that is part of the regulation, and more monitoring and better enforcement will ensure that this happens. Reducing informality, which has already happened to a good extent, but more is required. Ensuring that consumers are aware and they channelize their waste for formal recycling will support formal recycling sector. But at the same time, there is also a need for facilitation because even when the waste is available, setting up these recycling facilities require land, you need statutory clearances, you need investment, you need other types of support because it might not be as profitable a business as other businesses. So investors would be reluctant to invest in this business. So we need the facilitation support from the side of government and other stakeholders. For instance, in some states, there is this policy of recycling parks. The government is providing supportive, land allocation is facilitated, or clearances are facilitated. Investment promotion policies are there that if you invest, you will get subsidy, or if you invest, you will have some tax-free status for certain years, certain other benefits in terms of local charges, etc. So all those benefits, if the government, state government, central government, they together provide, then it will encourage the investors to put in investments in setting up recycling facilities. So that is also very important, that recycling as a sector is promoted. There is supportive policy from the side of the government to promote setting up of recycling facilities. Then from the financial institutions side also, it's a huge investment. For example, a facility like I was talking about, which is available in Belgium, cost around a few $1 billion to set up. Huge facilities for recovery of metals, recycling facilities. So that kind of investment, you need financial sector to also support. For example, how can companies raise debt for setting up such facilities? Or even activities like multiple companies coming together and setting up a common smelting or a common recycling unit. So that also is required to be facilitated in terms of the support from the financial sector in raising debt, etc., and some support in bringing together different stakeholders or sector people so that large investments can be made and very efficient recycling facilities can be set up.
Absolutely right. So, Jay, as you have taken us through the whole process, how it moves, the value chain, how it moves through the value chain. So, I see that once the system, you have the electronic waste in big amounts, large amounts, then you have a process setting up, and then government is also facilitating. They are trying to facilitate through different, providing support to the recyclers. But I have, in the previous episodes, I have, realized through conversations that even if a recycler is setting up a system, a facility, they are not getting enough electronic waste. Consumers at the very grassroots levels, consumers are not so sensitized, are not so aware to send their electronic waste right through this channel. So here, do you think any regulatory framework from government or something that, through policy or some changes, some strict, penalties or something like that should come in, so that the consumers are more aware to send the electronic waste to the right channel, not throwing them away in the informal sector, and then it creates a lot of, the informal sector people also get, exposed to hazardous waste and all, because they are not trained to handle all these things. So lot many more problems arise from this. So from the grassroots level, do you think the government should come with something more stringent, some stringent laws or something like that?
Yeah, so in my view, actually the regulation is there. So
Okay.
that pull has to be created, and it's very difficult to regulate all the citizens in the country who are using electronic equipment. Everyone has a phone, or major percentage of population has laptop, fridge, TV, you can say washing machines, all these items. And like, why they are giving it to the informal sector is one, it's an awareness issue. So that
Mm.
can be tackled. More and more awareness is required. Awareness at the school level itself. So are we environmentally conscious from the school level itself? Because it's very difficult to change people's perception and behavior once they are grown up.
Yeah.
It's very difficult to influence an adult, but you can make an environmentalist at a young age. Once
Mm.
somebody has grown up, to sensitize them, to motivate them for environmental issues is very difficult comparatively. That's what I've realized myself, and also others have shared this, that it's really difficult to change people's perception once they are adults. And then the other issue is that these, where are the points where we can give our waste? So how many locations are there? For example, there's this triple R center concept, which is being promoted by the Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs. So reduce,
Mm.
reuse, recycle centers, triple R centers. So around 15,000 triple R centers have been established. And these
Okay.
places, if they can be made into collection points for electronic waste as well. And certain types of electronic waste, actually, we are not expecting anything much. For example, chargers, earphones, basic keyboards from desktops. So we are not expecting a lot in return. Only in case of old fridge, television sets, old laptops, is this expectation of a monetary return, which the formal sector is not able to give, and the informal sector is able to give. So we need to create that incentive mechanism, so that the informal formal difference in terms of what they're paying to the consumer is covered. Or there could be a mechanism of deposit refund. There are challenges in how to implement it, or like operationalization could be a challenge. But in
Mm.
other countries, it is happening that when you, or there's this concept of advanced recycling fee. So when I'm buying a laptop, I'm
Mm.
paying 20 euros for advanced recycling fee. And then that recycling fee that I'm paying in advance is helping in channelizing the e-waste for
Mm.
formal recycling, because the price differential could be significant. And then it will be very difficult to monitor and control every individual consumer, that please don't sell your laptop to the informal sector, please don't sell your fridge to the informal sector. They will, if the incentive is higher. So we need these kind of financial mechanisms or incentives, either created through the e-waste credit system, or
Mm.
through the advanced recycling fee, or through some kind of deposit refund, that will ensure the waste goes back to formal recycling. And then also ensuring that no leakages happen once the waste is in the formal recycling setup. So there the role of regulators and enforcement mechanisms will be helpful, not at the consumer end. Consumer end is very difficult to monitor and enforce just because of the number of people that have electronic waste or electronic items and are generating electronic waste. Only these incentives can work, awareness programs can work. Not that all adults will not listen to environmental change related behavior, environment related behavioral change. So maybe sensitization at the school level, sensitization at RWA businesses level, awareness programs that will help. Then making sure that there's some kind of a monetary mechanism that ensures the gap between formal and informal pricing is less and less or not at all existing. Then most of it will go for formal recycling. So if these two mechanisms are there, then I think we can address this challenge of waste getting into informal systems, informal recycling systems.
Absolutely. We must start at the very basic level to start educating children right from the beginning to have that kind of a mindset that whatever you are utilizing, whatever you are consuming, not just e-waste, in fact, all kinds of waste, there should be a sensitization. That's what I believe. For all kinds of waste, we should know that where exactly it is going and what exactly the consequences are of throwing them away in landfills or the informal sectors. Definitely. So, Jay, can you share some success stories or case studies where organizations or regions that have, globally, the regions that have successfully transitioned from dismantling to efficient recycling? In India, we are still, just moving towards efficient recycling, but I'm sure the developed countries have successfully moved from dismantling to efficient recycling. So please let us know of some successful examples.
Yeah, so not just in abroad, but in India also, some good recycling activities happening. Not that everything is getting exported. We have domestic capacity for recycling, and that is getting utilized. For example, we worked with RLG India Private Limited, and RLG with them we had a project on promoting awareness on e-waste management. So it included all stakeholders, starting from schools, colleges, to RWAs, office buildings. And then a collection mechanism was supported. So there were 4 collection centers set up. We had vehicles going to the schools and RWAs, and wherever there were awareness events happening, we also had vehicles for collection of e-waste. And a lot of e-waste got collected that way because citizens, some of them, they just want a place where they can give the e-waste. They're not aware, so they throw it with the other waste or they sell it to the informal sector. If you give them channels for submitting their e-waste, depositing their e-waste, and maybe if a financial incentive can also be there for items like laptops, for old larger equipment, then they definitely give the waste for formal recycling. So that was done. And then we had 4 dismantlers and a few recyclers also who ensured that the waste that got collected also got dismantled properly, and then it was sent for recycling. Now, the scale which is there in, for example, in case of Umicore in Belgium. So this facility is probably, I don't know the exact volumes, but could be doing hundreds of tons of PCB recycling.
Okay.
So you need that scale also. So multiple dismantlers, when they provide their PCBs for recycling, and there is a recycling setup specialized in PCBs, printed circuit board recycling, then it would make sense to invest that kind of money and do the recycling. Otherwise, people have to export their difficult to recycle components. So in my view, there are the example that I mentioned about domestic technologies available and smaller recycling setups already functioning, recycling printed circuit boards. So they do exist and they are quite successful. It's just that at scale, once our volumes increase, once the informality reduces further, then we can have these larger facilities also.
Just out of curiosity, something is striking in my mind, so I think I must ask you. So you are talking about a very big, large scale, facility that can, support large volumes of electronic waste. So do you think in India there is some possibility of public sector coming into this facility making, or private sector is moving towards having something like that? Or do you see some public-private partnership might happen, and then we might see something big coming up? Is there something going
So yeah,
on that
so
front?
I'm not aware of what is happening exactly in the
Hmm.
space in terms of investment for larger facilities. But
Hmm.
some of the companies, they are listed companies. For
Okay.
example, I think Rico and a few more
Hmm.
electronic waste recyclers, they are listed. So
Okay.
they have raised, like in the stock market, they have raised money at the stock
Hmm.
exchange, and they can
Hmm.
raise more money. So that is another way of like at scale investment at scale, and
Hmm.
that might happen considering the new rules and also the increasing volume of electronic waste in
Hmm.
India. So that is one route where the private sector will raise their own finances at the stock market. They will raise debt from banks and financial institutions,
Hmm.
and they'll set up their own
Hmm.
privately owned recycling facilities. This other approach is also possible, particularly for regions where the facilities are not coming or they're taking longer time to come. There, the government may have to come forward and say, okay, we provide a land, let's do a public-private partnership.
Hmm.
Let's give some incentive for setting up the facility. And then the facility could also be set up by a public sector enterprise or a joint venture between a public sector enterprise and a private enterprise. And
Hmm.
yeah, those possibilities exist because the investment required is huge. And then the sector is relatively new. It's not certain that you will be making a profit, or
Hmm.
it's not very established a business. The technologies are also evolving, and new technologies keep coming. The product itself is going through a lot of changes. So the laptop today is not the same laptop that used to be there 10 years back. The components have changed, or the the individual material composition has changed
Hmm.
quite a bit. So it's a sector that needs support, and it would be good that that's a good idea, that public-private partnership, joint ventures, that will help the sector.
Yeah, absolutely. Because we see that this sector actually has a lot of challenges in setting up, because every business has to survive financially also. It has to be feasible and sustainable in terms of finances as well when it is concerned. Because I've spoken to many of the experts here, and it is a sense that there is a sense among everyone that it's a very challenging market, and what you extract maybe is not of that much value, but the energy and time and money that you are putting into it is quite
Certainly.
big. Yeah. So definitely. So with this, Jay, I think we are coming to an end, and I would want to thank you for your time today. It has really been an engaging session, and it was insightful.
Thank you.
So,
Thank you.
and you have really some important insights on dismantling and the associated topics. Thanks a lot, Jay.
Thank
And
you.
thanks for watching this video, audience. I hope we have been able to provide genuine information and awareness through this episode. We look forward to welcoming you next Wednesday at the same time for another episode featuring an expert. Should you have any queries, please feel free to reach out to us at surbi@icce.com. Stay connected through our social media channels for updates on upcoming events. Have a wonderful evening. Thanks a lot.